It was Thursday morning, November 10th, 1988. 2 days after the major election. And you know what? Like I say, I was kind of tired. Got a lot on my mind. I was supposed to went to New York yesterday, and I didn't. So I had an open ticket, first class, that I can travel anytime that I want to. So I got up, you know what I'm saying, period, like, just wipe the cold out my eyes, went to the bathroom, got ready, went in there, did everything that you do in the bathroom, wash up, brush my teeth, gargle, in the same period, got dressed, put on some deodorant, and, headed, because like I said, I wanted to go get my hair cut. So headed down, got into my vehicle, headed down to Mackey Barber in Moscona, to get my hair cut. Back then I was sporting TWA, what we call a teeny weeny afro. And as I got there, got in the Mackey seat, sat down, and like I say, Mackey know me. Only thing he really know me that I came in there, every now and then when I was in town, got my hair cut. He didn't really know my lifestyle or what I was into or who I really was back in New York City. He didn't know I was on a run. He didn't know really much about me or whatever. So, like I said right now, as I'm in there, my mother was there, and it was a unisex, shop at the time. So she had to get something done with her hair. So right now, as I'm sitting there getting my teeny weeny afro taken care and trim up, my mother was saying to herself, and I didn't know it, that at least at the U.S. government, the Fed, pick him up today, at least he got a haircut. Something only a mother would say. Love you, Mom. Who'd have think that Thursday, November 10th, when I awakened, that was doomsday, that I was about to be picked up on a fugitive warrant from the U.S. Marshal from the Eastern District of New York. At that time, I've been on a run approximately 99 days. So, being on a run, going from, New York to DC, Virginia, to Chicago, to LA, trying to get plastic surgery, I didn't have no idea this was the day that the U.S. Marshal finally caught up with me, Brian Glaze Gibbs, and was going to take me into custody. So even right now, if you see down this road right here, this is the road that U.S. Marshal, they had my family property all surrounded. And back there is where they had my family, Bob.
First of all, who are you?
Oh, my name is Lee Jones.
Okay, and right now, what's your relationship to Brian Glaze Gibbs?
Me and Brian Glaze, that's my first cousin. That's my knucklehead first cousin.
That's your knucklehead first cousin. Go ahead, shoot away, man. Tell me that story, man. Go back to November 10th, 1988. What happened that day when you woke up?
We was out chilling. We made some errors. We ran some errors. So I came back, and I looked in my backyard, and I seen some guys standing out there, and about like 3 or 4 of them. And I'm like, hey, what's happening? So I hollered at them, hey, what y'all looking at? It looked like they were trying to look over in the house.
Okay.
So I'm asking them, say, hey, yo, what y'all looking at? So they didn't say nothing. I'm like, man. I grabbed my binoculars. I started looking out there at them. I'm looking at them. All of a sudden, I see them looking back at me in a pair of binoculars. I'm like, what is going on? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, what's happening? So all of a sudden, I said, man, I holler at them. Hey, what y'all looking at back here? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on? What y'all looking at? So they still didn't say nothing. So I got out the house, went through the back door. When I came through the back door, there was about 7 of them now, just standing there looking. One had a pair of binoculars, so they kept looking. I'm like, hey. So I'm walking closer. As I'm walking, I'm saying, hey, man, what y'all doing looking at my house? I didn't know who they was, you know what I'm saying? As I got closer, all I saw was FBI. And when I got closer, all I saw was guns pointed at me. I'm like, whoa. So when I get there, they called me. They was like, hey, you got any firearm on you? I said, nah, I don't have nothing on me. It's the only thing I have is my binoculars. What the hell y'all looking at my window for? It was like, well, you're not the person we looking for. So I'm like, okay. So he's like, they showed me a picture for D, I believe it was. I was like, nah, I never seen them neither. And it was like, who live in the house with you? Who live in that big house next to you? I was like, oh, that's where my mother lived at. And it was like, do you know a Brian Gibbs? I'm like, nah, I never heard of him before. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I never heard of him. They was like, oh, okay, so they pat me down. After they pat me down, they said, all right, you can go. So I'm like, well, what's going on? Why y'all looking for these guys? Oh, well, we can't tell you. It's a long story. So I'm like, okay. So we had a few more words changed. After that, I booked on them. I left, and when I came, I went to the house, changed clothes, and I went straight up front where my aunt was at. And I saw all the officers and stuff around. I was like, oh, man, yeah, they got him.
So what area, man? Like, show me the area that you're actually in, where they were scooping at.
Went behind these trees, saw them in this area here. And they just kept looking and looking. I'm like, man, why y'all keep looking at me, man? I said,
And what they had on? Did they had on army fatigue? What did they had on?
They had on all black.
All black.
Yeah, they were all black.
Army, did they have bulletproof vests? They had guns?
They had bulletproof vests. They had AR-15s.
Okay.
That's what they had, AR-15. I remember the guns they had. This was back in 90, you feel what I'm saying? Early 90s. These boys ride around with AKs and AR-15s. That was the end of it. That's how it went.
That's how it went. All right, my man.
Then after that, they had him.
They had
Not my boy.
That was it. November 10th, 1988.
As I got into the car, you know, my mother got into the passenger seat. And as I'm driving off from leaving the barber shop and I'm going to the destination, you know, as I'm driving, I noticed, you know, I'm looking in the rearview mirror, being aware of my surroundings. And as I'm looking in the rearview mirror, I noticed, like, you know, the feds, the U.S. Marshal. I'm like, oh man, I knew like they had me. I knew that they was telling me. So I'm trying to, quote unquote, you know, stay calm, don't make no sudden move, and like, you know, just keep like trying to act as normal as possible, despite I was very nervous, despite my heart rate was probably beating faster than it ever was beating. So as I'm driving, I noticed that they got off of me. So they must be noticed that I noticed them, or it could have been a coincidence. So as I'm driving, I dropped my mother off, I picked up my son and my niece. You know, keep in mind, they like between the age of 3 and 4. So as I put them in the vehicle, and what I was gonna do is I'm gonna treat them to McDonald's. November 10th, 1988. I got to the parking lot of McDonald's. I was gonna treat my son and my niece, you know, to a Happy Meal, because that's what it's all about, like spending quality time with them, buying them little Happy Meals, making sure they were able to feel great about themselves and about me being around them, like good memories. And when I realized that the U.S. Marshal and the federal government was following me, I've been on a run at that time 90 days from, you know, Operation Horse Collar. So when I noticed they was on me, I was driving a Jeep Cherokee, and we had a Benzie box. I had a Benzie box at the time, and I had a fake driving license from Connecticut. And the name on that license was Wade Johnson. So I was gonna use that to let them know that's who I was, opposed to me being Brian Glaze Gibbs. But I thought about it, because if you give any law enforcement, federal law enforcement, the wrong name or fake ID, that's your additional 5 years. So I was thinking about it, and I'm saying, if these guys are already on me, they already know who the hell I am. So what I did is I took my son, took my niece out the car, and as we walked into McDonald's, we got there, got inside. As we got inside, it's like 30 of them, like discharged, like surrounded me, and jumped from behind the counter and laid me down on the floor and slapped 3 separate handcuffs on me. So, you know, I can remember one of them saying, look, man, you would never see South Carolina as a free man again. You would never be free again. That's it. It's over for you. So I'm like in disarm. I'm like, wow. Like after 90 days being on a run, it was over with. And, you know, to me, my whole life, my situation, it was like totally bleak. Only thing I knew that the life that I knew it from making $40,000 a day, doing what I need to do, you know, calling shots, it was over with. My life at 24 was over. I was facing natural life, hospital death penalty, but to be continued. You have to imagine walking in here with 3 sets of handcuffs on and walking out as a free man. That was not my case. on November 10th, 1988, when I was arrested by the federal government, the U.S. Marshal. They didn't let me go. I didn't get out until 8 years, 8 months, and 17 days later. And I didn't have nobody to blame but myself based upon my charges. You know, they didn't let me go. I was in the fight of my life. When you facing all these charges and murder charges, no. It was like, you know, a big different. No bail, no anything. I was in the fight for my life. A lot of people while I was there, I bailed out several people. Why? Because they had one guy had a bail, $2,500. I barely knew him. I couldn't get out $5,000, $500. I just started bailing people out because of the fact I had it like that and I wasn't going nowhere. So what the sense of having, if you can't give? So I gave back. Being that I couldn't go and I could help somebody else go, that's what I was doing. These guys I was just barely meeting in Charleston County Jail came to me with a sad story. Okay, they seemed legit. I got them out of jail because I was stuck. But what's the sense of having money if you can't help others? Getting close to Christmas, getting close to the New Year's. And that's what people should be. They should be with their family during a holiday, opposed to in bondage, like, behind cage, like animals, suffering, waiting to die a slow death. Because when you're in prison, you're in jail, like it bothers you mentally. It have a hell of a mental effect on you because you trapped, you cage in, nowhere to go. You're lucky if you can get out, get your little hour rec if that's allowed, or get your little 5-minute shower, probably 3 times a week. But what type of life is that? But I guess that's the price you pay when you commit crime, when you break the law. Crime doesn't pay.